The biggest reason people never leave their 9 to 5 or a job they hate isn't a lack of talent. It's the size of their goals. Because when you sit at your desk and look at the gap between where you are being an employee and building a business or working for yourself, that gap feels enormous. And when a goal feels that far away, your body doesn't feel motivated. It feels paralyzed. Now, I stayed stuck for years because I was trying to solve the whole future at once. And the only way I finally moved forward was by setting a goal so small and so unimpressive that my nervous system actually started to believe I could do it. So for a long time, I just wanted a different life. I wanted to wake up and not have to go to a job that I hated. I wanted to choose who I worked with. I wanted to make good money without burning myself out. And most importantly, I wanted to get rid of the Sunday scaries. That moment on a Sunday where you get a knot in your stomach because you know tomorrow means back to your 9 to 5. Every time I thought about how to get there, I felt overwhelmed because the distance between where I was and where I wanted to be just felt too big. And when a goal feels that far away, it's really hard to feel inspired. It just feels like pressure. And I also really doubted myself. I doubted that I was talented enough to do this. I doubted I was outgoing enough, or certainly doubted I was confident enough to build a business from scratch. So instead of trying to become someone else, I decided I was just going to do something much smaller. I stopped thinking about the whole future and I focused on one goal that I could actually believe. I'd love to get one paying client to have alongside my full-time job, because that almost felt real. And because it felt real, it created energy instead of anxiety. So this is how it actually started for me. This was the beginning of getting to 6 figures in a year, which I never could have imagined while I was sitting in my 9 to 5. I didn't have an online presence. I hated the thought of promoting myself. And in fact, I couldn't, because my boss and my employer wouldn't have liked it and probably would have told me it's against my contract. So I used whatever spare time I had and I started on Upwork. And again, I went back to that goal. Can I get one paying client? That was the goal. That was a simple goal. And what happened next is probably the part that nobody prepares you for. And that's the silence. So you put something out into the world. And I've noticed this with everything I do, be it starting my freelance business, starting videos now, starting a YouTube channel, starting with podcasters, helping them launch from zero. You put something out there and there's a phase longer than you expect of nothing. So no orders, no views, no customers, no feedback. That silent period is the most difficult by far. And silence has a way of validating itself. No traction starts to sound like, maybe I'm not cut out for this. Your mind fills in the gaps. It catastrophizes. And if you're holding a big, distant goal in that silence, to get to work for myself or be full-time freelance and make great money, that's really difficult. That's where it becomes really hard, because you wake up every day trying to force a future that is years away, and that pressure becomes unbearable. And that is why most people quit in that silent period. You think about people who want to go freelance and love the idea, and I've worked and spoken to tons of these people, and that is when they quit. When they put whatever it is out there, their service, or they start to do some form of content, they quit through that silent period. But if you stick with it and keep going, this is where everything changed for me. This is where everything started. I finally got a hit on Upwork, and my very first client paid me a whopping $6 an hour, and Upwork took 20% of that as well. So it wasn't impressive, but it was believable, and that mattered more, because that was the only focus, was to land one client. And to me at that point, it didn't matter how much that they paid. It was just that they did pay. And then you get momentum, because then you very quickly get another client, and then you get a few more. And what happens when I say the silent period is difficult to go through, there is a part that really surprised me, and that is how quickly your network expands. People that I'd connected with on Upwork were connecting me to other people. Once the snowball effect starts, it will surprise you how quickly it gains momentum. And that's what it's all about, because You're not building a brand, you're building belief. So after that, I kept the goals small. So one client became 2, then 5. Then the question became, how can I make an extra €1,000 in a month? That would supplement my income pretty nicely. And then I started to think, how do I replace my salary? And these were all mini steps, micro steps that felt believable, because I was at a point maybe when I thought about earning 1,000 a month, I was at a place where I was maybe earning 500 a month. So it wasn't insurmountable. And very quickly replacing my salary wasn't insurmountable. And then how do I do this full time, was the next obvious question. And then how do you earn more than what you're on in your previous job? And all them came to fruition. But each step was just one believable turn ahead of where I already was. And at no point did I try and leap further ahead. So here's the reframe that changed everything. Silence never means you're failing. It means you're just in between turns, but only if your goal is close enough to reach. Believable goals remove self-doubt and they stop it from spiraling. They make the silence survivable. And this cycle just repeats itself. It's the same cycle no matter what step you're at. So right now I have to think about, what is the next thing for me? What is the next goal? And I keep it believable. I'm not thinking about millions while I'm earning, just over 6 figures. That just seems too far away and it's hard to believe. So the whole thing about, if you can act as you've already done it or believe it that much that then it will come to fruition, I find that really tough. I find it really hard to believe that I'm a millionaire while I make just above 6 figures. So I try and just think of the next logical and small step. So if you're in a quiet phase right now, no momentum, no reassurance, no green shoots yet, that doesn't mean you've chosen the wrong path. It just means that your next goal is maybe too far away. So bring it closer, make it more believable, so much so that it almost feels real. And then keep taking that small step, because that's how quiet people build powerful businesses.